George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people we feel good about. This segment brought to you by the Oneida Nation Enterprises. So glad to have them as a partner on Inspiration for the Nation. And periodically, we get to meet some of the people behind the scenes. And so we're glad to meet Justin Arnett. He is the Director of Sportsbook Operations for 3 of the properties of the Oneida Nation Enterprises. And that would be the Turning Stone, that would be the YBR, Yellow Brick Road Casino, and also the Pointe Place Casino. So we're really excited to talk to you, Justin, about sportsbook operations, sports betting in New York, a relatively new phenomenon in New York. Well, horse racing has always been here, but generally to be able to bet on like the NBA and NFL and Major League Baseball and anything else you want to bet on, relatively new in New York State. But you're here, you got a tremendous background, spent some time in Vegas as well. So we'll learn all about that. But first of all, Justin, I want to learn a little bit more about you. So tell me about your background and what kinds of experience educationally did you take when you were in school to get you prepared for this moment?
Well, thanks for having me, George. I'm happy to be here. So for me, I went to school for history. I was my degree's in history. I've got a minor of all things in religious studies.
Mm-hmm.
I was just a curious person. So really, if I'm being honest, what I majored in school was football and track. I was an athlete. It was a big, like a lot of athletes when you're young, it's a big portion of your life. It consumes a lot of you. And so I went to a small liberal arts school in Division III in California called Claremont McKenna College.
Uh-huh.
I played 2 sports and I was, doing the school thing and everything. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do in the real world. So I finally ended up graduating college and I moved back to Dallas where I grew up. And I was just waiting tables trying to figure it all out. And there was a weekly poker game with the guys at work. It was Texas Hold'em, just before the big boom in the early 2000s.
Uh-huh.
I started playing that and I'm kind of a risk averse person by nature, I think.
Right.
But I started playing this weekly game and I really enjoyed it. And I started thinking about the math behind it and the skills taken that it took to beat it. I read some books and everything. Before you know it, I killed that poker game. Nobody wanted to play with me anymore. I started playing online and around towns in Dallas. And so that was kind of an introduction to me to gambling in general. Well, I was young and my brother was young. We were real close, my brother and I. He's about 1.5 years younger than me. And we were like, you know what, because I was poker, I was starting to take it serious. So like, let's move back to California where I graduated high school. And we're like, well, you know what, that's expensive. How about Vegas? So my brother and I in my early 20s decided like, let's just pick up sight unseen and move to Vegas. Wow. So we did that. Yeah, we did that. I was playing a lot of poker. I was doing well at that, but it didn't take me too long to realize that really wasn't the life for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was stuck in some restaurants, worked my way up into some like fine dining restaurants and things. And I did enjoy a lot about that, but it just really didn't give me any kind of fire inside. So, well, as fate would have it, my mother passed and I took some time for myself to kind of rebuild and take a step back. When I was going to get back in the workforce, I could have gone a couple different ways. I had a waiting table job where I would have done very well. At least at that time in my life, it would have been financially good for me. But something in the back of my mind, I always loved sports. I was interested in the gambling thing. I liked the kind of theory behind the math behind trying to beat the gambling. So I started thinking about sports betting. And some little voice in the back of my head told me, it doesn't matter. Go ahead and get into this because I think you're going to love it. And you know what? I did. I took a entry-level job as a ticket writer, and I never looked back. I haven't had a day where I didn't enjoy going to work, or I dreaded it. I've loved every single minute of it. I mean, the characters you meet and just being around sports and being around the environment it's just a fun environment. And so I just stayed in that environment and I worked my way up to a supervisor. I spent some time in the risk room as a risk. Nowadays they call them traders. Back then it was a risk supervisor. You're the guys who are making the bets, taking the bets, and moving the odds.
Mm-hmm.
I spent some time there. Then I got back into operations, and I worked my way up to manager, and I was running a couple big casinos in Las Vegas. And then the nation called, and I decided to listen. I wasn't very familiar at the time. I came out here. I was impressed by everything they do greatly. So we have kind of a similar value set to take guest service seriously and try and do things the best. I'm a very competitive person, and came out here, and that's the rest is history. It was a great opportunity to start from scratch, build something from scratch, and that appealed to me a lot. So
yeah, and some of the places that you worked, people may or may not have heard of the Venetian and the Plaza or places like that.
Yeah,
So
right.
you, as you were getting your feet wet, you certainly chose some pretty big operations to work with, but this gave you an opportunity. I like that how you said about the math. Now, did you ever think that you would be good at math and loving the science behind it when you were going through college? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I've always been I'm comfortable with math. I was never real advanced in math, but I was maybe ahead of the curve. But I loved it. But I didn't think I was going to go into that. But yeah, really kind of, there's different ways to skin a cat, so to speak, right? There's some guys who are all math for the sports betting, the other guys that are more handicapping based on like feel. I'm not sure how successful you can be at that, but there are people that seem to do well, so there's lots of ways to do it. But yeah, it was interesting that I got I went the math path. Yeah.
I think about that because often like there is some things that you have to do to be successful at it, but it's basically, what would you say it is to be successful at what you're doing? What kinds of things might people want to think about if they're concerned that, I don't know math like Justin does?
Right. So really, to me, my advice for anyone for anything is you just got to love it. Whatever you want to do, you got to love it. It can't be a chore for you to do the stuff you need to do to improve in what you're doing. You got to enjoy the ride. So if you love it and you enjoy, for me, I love the challenge of trying to put together kind of a math model to predict what the line's going to be, what the outcome of a game is going to be. I was really into college football. That was my thing. I don't follow it to the T like I used to, but once upon a time I knew like every player on every team, and I was like an encyclopedia, and it's because I loved it, and so then I started looking at stats and then trying to predict the outcome of a game with the stats and this and that, and and it got me into it. And funny enough, once I've been in the business, I didn't use that too much. In the risk room there was some of that. You got to know, you got to be comfortable with the odds, but like anything, like it goes back to loving it, right? Because if you're doing it every day and you're seeing it every day and you're thinking about it a little bit, it's just going to become easier and easier, and it just starts to become second nature when you're looking at it all the time.
So then this is a sort of a lead into a conversation about you're looking for folk. I mean, you've got some real opportunities here in New York and at the Nation for people who might want to get into sports betting opportunities, and you're here to talk about what some of those opportunities are.
Oh, absolutely. So we've got a few. So the entry level is a ticket writer. We like to promote from within, and we've been promoting a lot, actually. We just promoted 2 new supervisors who spent time as ticket writers, and then we've already promoted a couple managers. So it's a room for growth. I mean, there's not a bigger, well, I don't want to say there's not a bigger one, but you're going to be hard pressed to find a bigger growth industry than sports betting. I mean, ever since the PASPA was repealed by the Supreme Court 2 years ago, I mean, it's just blowing up like wildfire, state after state. It used to be just a real small collection of us. There was a handful of us in Vegas, and we all kind of seems like we all know each other. It was a small world, but that world is growing. Right now, there's more jobs becoming available than there are people to do those jobs. From my perspective, it seems that way anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I don't know, you talked about more jobs being available and that most people start as a ticket writer. So let me ask you, what does it mean to be a ticket writer?
So a ticket writer as a, it's not maybe what it sounds. You're not actually a writer. So you're the person who makes the bets and cashes the bets for the person. You're the ground level employee, right? You're the guy who, if somebody comes up to the counter and they want to bet on the Giants, to beat the Cowboys, to cover the spread by 7, then.
And by the way, Justin, thank you for that analogy.
Yeah, and I shouldn't have even said it because that kills me because I'm a Cowboys guy.
No, that's why I appreciated you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, we got to go with the home team. Really, if you're in this business long enough, your allegiance is thin. It comes down to the greenback a little bit. My favorite team is the one that wins me with some money.
I know. Hey, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need to ask now. Now you don't open the door, Justin. Have you ever bet against the Cowboys?
Oh, absolutely. I have. It's funny when you know your team inside and out. I don't follow it as close as I did once upon a time, but
Right.
Once upon a time I knew, when they're going to have a bad game, and you get as a fan, as a high level fan, I think a lot of times you have an intuition for that, and yeah, I capitalized on that once or twice. That's for sure.
So, well, now that we're down that road, let me just stay there for 1 second. Zach, are you still a good fan of the Cowboys? And what do you think of Zach? And did they do the right thing by paying him the money?
For Mr. Prescott, yeah, absolutely. You know what? I've got some reservations. I like an accurate guy.
Right.
He's not maybe the highest scorer on accuracy, but everything else, the guy's outstanding. I mean, he's got a great attitude. He's a great leader. He sees the field real well. He makes quick decisions. I mean, the guy puts up points and yards, so I'm happy with it. There's only so many of those elite quarterbacks in the league, so when you got one that comes your way, you got to lock him up.
Jerry, it doesn't seem like Jerry trusts him though.
Well, I mean,
paid him, right?
Yeah, he paid him an awful lot of money. And at the beginning of the year last year, I think after, it was something like 2 weeks after he was hurt, he was still leading the league in passing last year.
Really?
Yeah. He had such a lead. He was really doing well. He was off to a record-breaking year, and it's unfortunate.
So to get to the point where people are able to handicap. So I guess Vegas still sets the odds. Is that how it works? And then how does that work?
Well, kind of. Yeah. So, we don't need to get too much in the weeds here, but so it's really, there's usually an offshore book somewhere that starts it. And then they start taking, then everyone else starts putting numbers up, and it's a market. Like any market, it gets bet into place, right? As people buy and sell or take one side versus the other, the line kind of gets sharpened over time. So a few days in on an NFL week, you got a pretty sharp line typically.
So we're seeing, though, that this kind of conversation, that sports betting jobs are getting younger sports fans into the workforce. So tell me, the kinds of people that you're looking for who, like you, love what you do, love sports, and would love a career opportunity.
Absolutely. So it's funny. We got a couple different types of people. There's some people that come in the door and they don't know anything about sports, but they're great people persons, and they have good attention to detail. They're good handling the money. And some of the best ticket writers I've worked with over the years have been those kind of people that don't care. Then you've got another group of people that they're just sports people, and and they love, like me, I just love being around it. And I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. And they kind of have eyes to make a career out of it, So we get those people in. What I'm kind of leery on, you got to still pay it. We're still guest service, right? I mean, right. That comes first. So sometimes we're looking up at the TV. There's about to hit the game-winning 3-point shot or something, but somebody's at your window. You got to take care of them. So that's the only maybe reservation I have with somebody that's too much into sports, because you want them to focus. But it usually works out pretty well.
Yeah. Let me just tell you, if I worked for you and the Knicks were on, that would be problematic for me.
Yeah, I get the feeling. I'm the same way when my Cowboys play, or I'm a Longhorn fan, Texas Longhorn. I can get very distracted, but
There you go, right?
but I'm also driven. So you got to do the job first.
Absolutely. So you talked about some of the positions. What do you have available now? So you said everybody starts as a ticket writer. What are some of the other positions within the United Nations enterprises as people start to advance? You said you also promoted a couple of folk to supervisors. What other ways can people advance within this particular line, which is, again, I remarked that it's pretty new in New York, at least from the standpoint, legally.
Right. So, there may have been a couple guys on the corner.
Okay, let's be clear, right?
Yeah, right.
So what kinds of opportunities are there? They started ticket writers, but then what else is there?
So operationally, so you go ticket writer, and then you have a supervisor who's they're kind of handling guest situations. They're making sure they're the content manager. They're putting up the TVs, making sure the sound's on the right game. So that person, for that role, you need to have some sports knowledge, because you need to know what people want to see, right? You got to make sure you prioritize the games on the TV that need to get up there. So they handle guest issues. They're going to give approval to void some bets or take in some bets. That's the next step up as a supervisor. And then above that would be the manager of each shop, of each book. Mm-hmm. Right. So Turning Stone has a manager, Pointe Place has a manager, Yellow Brick Road has a manager. So the manager does the scheduling and allows people the time off. And they also do a lot of the supervisor duties there. Within the industry, there's also the traders, the risk supervisors, but currently we're not doing that locally. We have partners that we work with.
So how many positions are you looking for right now to join the entire team?
So right now we probably have like 4 or 5 ticket writer positions available
right now.
Yeah. I mean, we just sent an offer out just as early as today. Actually, I interviewed a guy and I offered him on the spot. So the positions are there, and it's certainly a growth industry. I mean, that's for sure.
All right. So for people who want to become a sports book writer, is that what we call you?
Yeah, ticket writer. Writer. Yeah, it can be a little confusing. I think we might even have put it out there as a cashier, just to because I think some people are confusing. A guy who has my position at another company, right, that we do business with. We have a partnership with Caesars, right? A marketing partnership. We use a lot of their lines, Caesars and William Hill. So they have a guy that's in my position. He was with them. He's moved on since, but he used to tell the story years ago. He's from New York. He's from, I believe he said he was from Brooklyn, but anyway, he had moved to Vegas and he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do. Well, I guess he had taken some literature or something in college, and he applied for this ticket writer position. He thought he was going to write sports stories. He showed up, and day one, he's like, wait, this isn't exactly what I thought. So I kind of digress there. It can be a little confusing, but no, it's you're writing the bet. You're writing the ticket.
So if I go online to onenterprises.com, what would I apply for?
Ticket writer. Sportsbook ticket writer. It might be under gaming sportsbook ticket writer. I'm not sure. I haven't logged on recently. I don't recall.
All right. I mean, listen, opportunities exist on Enterprises, onenterprises.com. And you got a career ticket. We've learned a lot about the business. And I have to have a little bit more fun. So what is a bookie?
What is a bookie? That would be an unlicensed and unregulated bookmaker.
Thank you very much.
That'd be the guy on the corner.
That's the guy on the corner.
Yeah. So really, in our line of work, if you're the ones taking the bets, really it's more on the risk room side. Well, I'm the operator side. Right. I did that for a little bit, but that's not what I'm doing now. But if you're the guy who's moving the numbers and you're accepting the bets and you're trying to balance the books, you're a bookmaker. So a bookie is a shortened slang term for bookmaker.
bookmaker. Gotcha. Justin
Right.
Arnett, he is the director of sportsbook operations at the United Nation Enterprises, Turning Stone, YBR, which is Yellow Brick Road, and the Point Place Casinos. He's got about 5 people he can hire right now. Go to onenterprises.com and apply, and you can start your career. Justin, a lot of fun. Let me say this. I never thought I would have this much fun with a Cowboys fan, but we just proved anything is possible.
Anything's possible in this world. Thank you very much for everything, George.
Justin, so glad to meet you, and we wish you all the success here in your second, third anniversary coming up right here in New York. New York, Justin. New York.
New York.
Inspiration for the Nation.